Hey. It's great to be here in Berlin. Thank you all for coming out today. It's an honor to be here and be able to hear from you about how we can be doing a better job building Facebook to be a community where people all around the world can connect. You know, so I'm going around the world and doing these town hall Q&As, and the goal of what I'm trying to do is get a chance to hear from people in all of the different communities on Facebook. So it's, you know, Berlin is a very special place to me. When I think about our mission of helping people be able to connect everywhere, no city in the world symbolizes breaking down walls and bringing people together more than Berlin. And, you know, the history and the tradition here is incredibly rich of what can happen when people come together. I feel this pretty deep connection to this place, and I love it every time I come here. And it's an honor to be here. So thank you for welcoming me here today. And there's one other thing that I really love about Berlin, which is, you know, we recently just built this new building, Facebook headquarters out in California, and we designed it so it looked, so it felt like it wasn't finished, right? We have this motto that our journey is 1% complete on the path to being able to connect everyone and give everyone in the world the power to be able to share everything that they want. And, you know, the idea behind the building that we built was that we want people to come to work every day not feeling like they're a part of something that's been complete, but inspired because it looks like a work in progress, and it is a work in progress. And we think that brings out the most creative elements in people. And I just feel really at home in Berlin. I mean, driving around, and this is a city which is clearly being built up by the current generation after the recent history and the unification. And, you know, no other place in the world, to me, do I get this kind of an entrepreneurial feel, driving around, seeing the paintings, seeing so much construction. I feel like this city, more than a lot of the other places that I go to, is also 1% finished, and that's incredibly inspiring to me. And you know, it's incredibly aspirational, and the entrepreneurial attitude here is amazing, and it feels just like home. So I'm excited to come here and answer questions. Today, I think Martin talked for a bit. He's the head of our German office. We also want to introduce one other person, who is Richard Allen, who's the head of all of our European policy. We are a European company in addition to a global company, and when it comes to our European operations, Richard is the guy who's in charge of all this. So I wanted to call him out up front, because in case there are any very specific questions that I can't answer, I may kick them to him. Now, I don't want to ramble on for too long up front, so let's go to questions.
Perfect. Mark, just before we begin, I want to give everyone a little information how we're going to answer questions today, right? So we got a lot of questions from your post, and we'll be answering, of course, some of the most popular ones. Then we'll be going through the rows here and ask people. And we also have actually questions from Facebook Live, right?
Awesome.
So, sounds good? Let's go.
Good.
Great. So let's start with the first question.
Hello, Mark.
Stand up, please.
My name is Heiko, and I have a question. Thema live video. I can Twitter, Periscope, and Facebook. No, in the moment, nur Prominente. And my question is, see, make videos in the next time live?
All right, here we go.
Oh.
Great. Great question.
Good.
So, yes. And not only yes, but we have some fun news today, because until now we've had live video on Facebook for a few months, and as an aside, this is actually the first one of these town halls that I'm doing around the world that we're actually broadcasting live on my Facebook page right now. It's the first one that we're doing with this live video product. But as you say, you know, the goal isn't just to make this so that you know, a few people can broadcast live. We want to put that power, you know, we think about it as the power to broadcast like you're on TV in everyone's pocket around the world. And we started rolling that out on iOS over the last couple of months. And today is a great day to ask this question, because today is the day that we're rolling this out. We're starting to roll this out on Android too. And over the next few weeks, and hopefully over the next month, this will be something that everyone here has the power to do as we continue rolling out the infrastructure to do this. And I think that this is going to be great. Live video is one of the things that I'm most excited about, because it's so raw and visceral, right? I mean, when you think about social media in 2016, right, a lot of us spend a lot of time thinking about what we're going to share, right? If you want to share a photo online, like, you want it to be a good photo, right? And a lot of what I think makes social media so special is that people feel like they can share what's personal to them. And we don't want people to feel like they have to curate and be so careful. And making it so that when you're sharing live video, you know, I think it takes some of that pressure away, because there's no way when you're doing something live that it can be curated. By definition, it's not. It's what's going on live. So it's very freeing. It gives people the ability to express what's going on in their life now, what they care about, without having to you know, feel like it's some super curated thing. And I think that that's going to be really powerful. What we've seen so far is that the demand for it has been very great, not just for the public figures and people who have big audiences who we expected to really enjoy it, but also for a lot of young folks, you know, people in high school and college who really want these kind of raw, emotional, visceral ways to share and connect with the people around them. So of a lot of the things that we've done recently, this is one that I'm looking the most forward to rolling out. Starting today on Android, looking forward to getting the power to broadcast like a TV and all of your pockets within hopefully the next month.
All right. All right. So Mark, the next question is actually one that kept us really busy in the past, and it's really important to us. So it's right here.
Hi, Mark. I would like to ask you about hate comments on Facebook, because recently more and more of these comments has been posted, and I think you recognize this problem. That's why you hired this task force here in Berlin, and they are trying to fix this problem. But how exactly do they decide whether to delete a comment or not? And will this task force be able to fix the problem? And do we have similar strategies for other countries?
This is a really important topic, and I guess we'll probably get multiple questions on this over the course of the town hall today, which is great. You know, hate speech has no place on Facebook and in our community. And honestly, until recently in Germany, I don't think we were doing a good enough job, right? And I think we will continue needing to do a better and better job. I went to this summit at the UN last, I think it was September or October, and I had a chance to talk to your prime minister, and you know, that to me really highlighted how much more we needed to do in this country to really help and be at the level of support that we should be at, and I feel like have a responsibility to be at for our community. So since then, we've done a handful of things, which is a start. We partnered with government and local nonprofits to start the online Civil Courage Initiative, which is promoting counter-speech and ways to make sure that hate speech is minimized online. We've funded an effort here in Germany with about 200 people to be able to help police and make sure that bad content isn't on Facebook. But probably the most important thing that we've done here in Germany is, you know, our definition of hate speech in our community has always been around protecting, you know, certain groups of people, you know, protected classes and groups of people. And one of the things that is unique in Germany is that migrants are a protected class. And frankly, before we started engaging more with government and civil society here in Germany, that wasn't how we operated around the world. There are lots of racial and underrepresented groups that we considered to be protected groups that we monitored for hate speech. But really, our education and learning more about German culture and German law has led us to change our approach on that to now include hate speech against migrants as an important part of what we just now have no tolerance for and being a part of on Facebook. So, this is always a work in progress. I'm not going to claim up here today that we're perfect. We're definitely not. Our system relies on people in the community being able to reach out and tell us what they think is offensive, and then we staff teams of people, hundreds of people around the world, to be able to go look into those claims and follow the guidelines to take down the content that we feel is hate speech according to those policies. But we're always trying to do better. And this is an area where we recognize how sensitive this is, especially with the migrant crisis here and all the sensitivity around that recently. And this is something where just being engaged more with the German people and the culture and government and civil society here, I think has pointed us and helped us get in a bit of a better direction. There's still work to do. We want to do that. But I think we hear the message loud and clear, and we're committed to doing better. There's not a place for this kind of content on Facebook.
Thank you, Mark. We have a slightly lighter topic now. A very interesting, actually, question from the thread. When should kids start with technology? What's the perfect age to teach them about technology?
Now I really have to think about this because I have a daughter. But probably not for a while. She's only 3 months old, so not much technology use when you're 3 months old. I'm pretty pro-technology, right? I think, no surprise. And, I grew up, I started using the computer in my dad's dental office when I was 10 or 11, started wanting to learn how to program computers. And for me, computers and technology were a creative outlet. And, it's been a really important part of my life. It's how I express my values, the things that I care about, the ideas that I have. And I think increasingly for a lot of young folks who are growing up now, that's going to be the case. And before you can get to a point where you're programming computers and expressing what you want through them, you also just need to have a basic familiarity with technology. So much of what I did early on before I started programming, I just played games, right? Because I liked games, and a lot of what I started programming wasn't anything special, right? It was just I wanted to make my own games. I liked other people's games. I wanted to make my own, so I made these games. They were terrible in the beginning, but they were mine, right? And they were kind of what I wanted to build. So you have some tolerance for that, and that I think that there's a cycle here where if we want our children and the next generation to grow up being able to master technology and use it to as an outlet for their creativity and their values and to shape society in the way that they want, then in general, I am pretty in favor of people having the ability to get familiar and try all this stuff out pretty early on. But, this will be something that we have to figure out, I think, as Max grows up. I may have a different view then, but, we don't let people on Facebook until they're 13. I think she'll be able to be plenty familiar with technology without using Facebook until she's 13.
All right, we have another question from the room here, and please.
Hi, Mark. As the issue of privacy is becoming more serious and more prominent, do you think that there is a risk that more and more number of users would find the conditions for using Facebook unacceptable? And what kind of incentives could be given to Facebook as a platform in order to provide or to guarantee security for users' data in terms of privacy and anonymity?
Yeah, this is really important, and I think especially here in Germany, where I think of, I just think there's an incredibly rich history here, right? In this city, and in this country that I think shapes the culture and really makes Germans, in a lot of ways, the leaders in the world in pushing for privacy. And you know, that I think is one of the important things about coming and visiting here, is learning and having a chance to hear from developers and different folks here about how they think about the direction the internet is going and how we're doing and how we can do better. And that's why we do these town halls. You know, for your question, I think, you know, absolutely, we need to do a good job on this. You know, every day, I think people, you know, are making these decisions of, you know, do I want to use this service to share these personal moments in my life with the people who I care about? And, you know, people are posting photos and videos and, you know, really emotional and personal things that are going on. And, you know, people aren't going to want to do that if they don't feel like we're a good steward of that content, right? If that content is going to end up in the hands of the wrong governments, or it's not going to be secure and hackers are going to be able to get access to it, or all these different kinds of things, or we're going to use it in a way that people want, then people aren't going to want to participate in that. And that's our job, right? Is we need to make sure that we build services that are that give people the power to share everything that they want with all the people who they love and care about, but also have complete control over how that information is used and shared, right? And that's why, over the years, since the beginning of Facebook, we've been very focused on, you know, every piece of information that you put on Facebook, you have complete control of who sees it, right? And if you want to take it down, you can, right? That's different from a lot of other services on the internet where there's information out there that you know, is indexed or whatever, and you just have less control of what's out there. And that's always been, you know, one of the things that's enabled this community to grow, right? Is that people need private spaces to be able to express who they are. But if you go back to the beginning of Facebook, you know, back in 2004, there were blogs, right? There were public spaces where you could share with everyone if you wanted. And there were private communication spaces like email. But what there wasn't was a space where you could share with just your friends, right? Or just the people in your community. So in a real way, I think that Facebook and all of the success we've had is that we are actually a privacy innovation, right? We carved out this space and made it so that for the first time ever, it was possible to share content with just the people you cared about, and not everyone in the world, but not also have to send an email to people one by one. And a lot of the best things that I think we've done over time have been that, right? Whether it's enabling people to form small groups, to have different private spaces to share in, or create different kinds of content in different ways. The only way that we're going to succeed over time is if we keep on doing that and keep on listening to the needs of people in the community. And, you know, absolutely, if we get it wrong, then people will find another way to do what they want to do. You know, we're not the only option in the world, and, you know, every day we earn the privilege of serving our community. And we have to do a good job. And I think, you know, we get a lot of the best feedback from people here in Germany. So please continue.
All right. So Mark, we take a question from the room over here. So who has a question I'm just looking here at this area. Who's there? Ask your question, make yourself.
Hey, it's actually a question of Facebook topic. Considering the current state of Twitter, if you were the CEO of Twitter, what would you do right now?
There is no right way for me to answer this question. Let me say, I have no idea what to say to that. All right, without getting myself into a lot of trouble. You know, all right, let me answer that question by talking about what we've done with Instagram. So, you know, one of the things that, you know, Facebook traditionally has been a service that is mostly focused on, you know, more private communication with friends, small groups of people. And one of the things that I think traditionally other networks and other parts of the internet, whether that's Twitter or YouTube or different communities have traditionally done more on is public content. And recently with Instagram and Facebook as well, we've realized that that's an area that in the communities that we're building and in the areas that we're serving, that's an area that we could just focus a lot on. And people want to keep in touch with the athletes that they care about, the celebrities and the actors who they care about, the political leaders and civil leaders in their communities, and giving people tools to be able to share what they care about and follow those things, I actually think has contributed to a large degree in the growth of Instagram. Right, and I think has historically to the growth of Twitter too, and I think that there's probably more that they could do there. But it's certainly an area that we're seeing with Instagram. People follow the public figures that they care about, and Instagram joined us when that community was, I think it was about 20 million people, and the team that was working on Instagram, I think had 14 people. And at the time, everyone was like, you bought that for $1 billion? You're crazy. And, maybe we are a little. But since then, we've helped to build the team up. It's, 10 times bigger now. We have 150 people of the best people at Facebook working on Instagram. The community has grown from 20 million people to more than 400 million people on Instagram now. Instagram's now bigger than Twitter. And I think a lot of that is because we've executed the roadmap that I'm talking about in terms of giving people the ability to giving public figures and folks the ability to produce great kind of raw content of what's going on in their lives and giving people the ability to connect with that. And one more thing on this is we had this question about live earlier, and I think live is just going to be an awesome thing for public figures. We talked about people on a regular basis communicating with their friends, but imagine your favorite public figure or politician just being able to have the power to broadcast like TV in their pocket all the time and be able to go live and have an audience of tens or hundreds of thousands of people just by pressing a button on their mobile phone and talking to the people that they care about. There's a lot more that I think needs to get done to give people the ability to connect with the people and figures that they're interested in. And I think you're going to see a lot of that on Instagram and Facebook. And if the Twitter folks do a good job, I think you'll see a lot more of that on Twitter too.
Hey, Mark, it's actually nice. You just talked about live. We actually have a question from live on Facebook. What's the feeling to be a dad?
It's awesome. I think a lot about like what's been the most surprising thing, right? It's and for me, it's got to be that you have this child, right? And they can't say anything yet, right? And they have these very basic ways of communicating. They can kind of cry when they're not getting what they want, and you have to decide which of the 3 issues it is, right? Whether it's they're not, they want food, they want their diaper changed, or they want sleep. But the thing that's been most surprising for me is just you can pick up on so quickly what they want, and you go so far out of your way to do it. And one of the things that's been surprising to me is, apparently, so there are babies who like water and there are babies who don't. It turns out, right? You don't know which one you're going to get. And so Max is a baby who just really loves water. She loves her bath. I've been there for basically all of her baths. And really early on, I figured out it's like this is like a thing that she loves. So so first of all, I'm gonna change my work schedule around so I can make sure I'm home for every bath. Second, I'm gonna figure out how often I can bathe her before it's like too many baths. That's too many baths. So we settled on every other day is the right amount to bathe your daughter. But it really is this amazing thing where without the ability to speak or even really communicate with her hands too much or anything like that. She really can send these very clear signals about what it is that she wants, and I just never, thought I would go so far out of my way to pick up on these tiny signals and just do what this little being, who's just this lovely, lovely girl, wants. And I don't know, that's been the coolest part for me so far. And I just assume that as she grows and picks up the ability to speak and communicate more, that I think she's just going to have me completely wrapped around her finger.
So we have another question from the audience. Do you want to stand up, maybe, so we can see you?
So, hi. Well, I'm a young mother too, so I totally understand what you said before.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so my question is, on the one hand, you open the doors for everyone to the internet with internet.org, but on the other hand, you close them with the news feed. People live in their own made reality, depending on what they're posting, reading, what they like. And especially in Germany, I think it's a huge problem when you look at racism and things like that. So how do you want to prevent people living in their own filter bubble?
So this is a great question. So first of all, thanks for the shout out for internet.org, because, I think that it's easy for us, sitting in a developed country where, probably everyone in this room and probably almost everyone who has access to the internet. But the reality is that, of the 7 billion people in the world, more than half, more than 4 billion people don't have access to the opportunities of the internet today. So whether that's educational information or health information or opportunities to find jobs, or communication tools. So I do think that that's one of the biggest responsibilities that I think our generation has, is making sure that those opportunities are not just the opportunities of the wealthy countries or the wealthy cities in the world, but really everyone around the world. And I'm glad that that's something that you care about. For your question about content on Facebook and filtering, this is actually, I think that this is actually a misperception. I think there's this narrative that folks have that because on the internet you can say what you're interested in, that you're just going to get more and more content about that, and your point of view is going to be narrowed. And I can understand why that's a narrative that's out there. But the reality is that social media is actually probably the most diverse form of media that exists so far. And here's why. Most people, if you're reading a newspaper or watching TV, you probably pick, a few stations that you care about that jive with your values and the interests that you have. And, all of the content that you're getting from that newspaper or that TV station fits the editorial viewpoint of that channel. Whereas on social media, what is likely is, you have a bunch of friends, and while probably a lot of your friends share your values on different things, it's likely that, some portion, even if it's a minority, even if it's just 10 or 20%, but, from the studies that we've done, it's, as much as 30 or 40% of people have different values, different ideologies than you do on your friend list. So what we've found is that when you're going through newsfeed, often almost 30% of the content is coming from people who have different ideologies, maybe are going to vote for the other political party or come from a different racial group or country than you do. And you're actually much more likely to be exposed to content that comes from different points of view in something like newsfeed than you are from kind of picking a newspaper or a TV station and sticking with it. Now, here's the kind of tricky part about human nature is what we find, though, which is, I think, unfortunate, is that even though, almost 30% of the content in your newsfeed may be stuff that you don't ideologically agree with or is from people who you don't ideologically agree with, what we find is that people kind of tune that stuff out, right? And are much more likely in newsfeed to click on the content and to engage with it if it's what they agree with or believe in. So it kind of fits this pattern of, you're going to watch the TV station whose editorial views you believe in, or the newspaper whose editorial views you believe in. And I'm not sure how to solve that problem yet. But the reality is that I think it's a myth that at least Newsfeed is creating these kind of filter bubbles online. Certainly the internet gives people the power to seek out information they want. So if they only want to see information about what they care about, then they're going to have the power to do that. But I think that we should all feel good about the fact that social media actually is broadening the top of the funnel of the information that we're exposed to.
Hey, Mark, here's another topic that has come up and actually also been widely in the media about Beast, right? So you have a dog called Beast. And
it's not a town hall unless we get, the daughter question, the Beast question, because everyone cares about my dog, right? It's like I come to Berlin, that's what
okay, that's a good one. That's actually one about story in GQ about Beast and your daughter, right? So it said, the title was Beast Zuckerberg's birthday was hijacked by baby Max. How's dealing Beast with the new rival?
All right, I'll keep this one short. He's good. He likes Max. Beast he's a little herding dog. He's a Hungarian sheepdog. He's called a Puli. He looks like a mop. If you haven't seen pictures of him, you can look him up on Facebook. He has quite the cult following. I do most of his posts. He can't speak. So he does this kind of adorable thing where, every morning, he sleeps in my office room in the house. So every morning I wake up, the first thing I do is I open up the door to the office so he can come out, and he basically takes attendance to find everyone in the house. So he's like, all right, Dad, I know where you are. All right, now I'm going to go run around and find Mom, wherever she is. And then he's like, all right, now I'm going to run into the nursery and find Max and make sure she's okay. And then I'm going to go outside and check on all the squirrels. But that's basically, he's doing fine. I think he is acclimated quite quickly. He now understands that I think he's a dad too, and is responsible for taking care of little Max. And I think that the photo that you were probably referring to was on Beast's birthday. I just posted this photo of him just sitting in a chair looking down at Max, because he knows he's not allowed to touch her yet. But he, I think, has adopted quite the paternal attitude towards our little girl.
All right. We have another question from the audience, and it's about our innovation topics and AI.
Yeah. Thanks. So first of all, the first question that nobody has stated yet, how's it going? How are you doing?
I'm good. Fine.
Okay, so what I want to know about...
And you?
Last time I checked, was pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so about artificial intelligence especially. So I've heard you dedicated yourself especially to AI and developing home automation systems with voice control based on AI and so on. So what I would like to know is, what would you also contribute to that entire topic within Facebook, for example? Would you think that AI would be a great tool, for example, to detect and flag hate speech? I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It already is, and it can get a lot better. So every year I do these personal challenges. I think this is what you were referring to. And this year my personal challenge is to just code a little simple AI to help me control my home and help do some work. Have you guys seen Iron Man, the movie Iron Man? He's got this computer Jarvis that he's built. It's not actually possible to build that yet, but I want to get as close to that as I can, and I think that will be kind of a fun personal challenge for the year. I'm a person who clearly likes programming and coding, and I don't do a whole lot of that for Facebook anymore for a number of reasons. We have this rule at Facebook that if you write code, you have to support it, which means that if there's a bug, you have to drop everything you're doing and fix the bug. And I don't want to be a jerk and have someone else in the company have to go fix my bug because I'm traveling in Germany. So I stopped coding for Facebook, but I want to do this on, but I want to code whenever I can. So I'm building this thing on the side, and And it's a pretty cool opportunity to just get a chance to build something and experience what the state of the art is, and voice recognition and understanding language and image recognition and pattern recognition and all these things which are kind of the state of the art in AI. Now, on the Facebook side, I'm very optimistic about AI, right? I think there are people in the world who think that this is going to be a great thing, and then there are people in the world who are very afraid of it. And I'm definitely on the side of hope and optimism and thinking that this is about to be a really great thing that solves a lot of human problems. And whether it's being able to understand language and read posts to better identify hate speech so we can do an even better job of serving our community, or some of the other things that we see in the field, right? Self-driving cars, right? I mean, one of the leading causes of death around the world is car accidents, right? If we can just, even if we don't make our cars fully self-driving, if we can just install the ability to detect when a person is in front of a car or you're in a dangerous situation, just automatically hit the brake, we could save millions of lives. That's AI, right? I heard this awesome example recently where some folks who are building AI systems built the ability for anyone on a mobile phone to be able to take a picture of a little skin lesion, and it can now tell with the accuracy of the best dermatologists in the world whether that's cancer, right? And just think about that. It's like you want your doctor to have that power, right? And that turns every doctor into the best doctor in the world, and in being able to tell if you or someone you care about might have cancer. And AI is also going to be better at helping to figure out how to treat people. So, I don't know, I think that there's a lot of awesome stuff that's going to come over the next 5 or 10 years. And I think it's our responsibility as a society to push for those things which are clearly going to be awesome and save lives and improve lives, and not just be cynical about the direction that this technology can be in. I think it can do a lot of really good stuff for the world.
All right, me. So I have the top question from the thread from your post. And the top question is, hey, Mark, we have seen some media use photos of victims or suspects from crime scenes or accidents that they took from Facebook, including from posts that are non-public without permission. This sometimes leads to innocent bystanders being accused. Do you find that okay?
Well, this is a tricky one. If it's not a public photo, then someone should not be taking your photo and using it publicly. In general, the rule is that you control all the content that you post on Facebook. There's a question earlier about privacy. If we're building a community and people are sharing stuff that they don't intend to be public and then someone else is making that public, then that's an issue, right? And that's going to undermine the trust that our community has in us to make it so that when you share something with just your friends, that's actually going to only the people that you want. This is a tricky area for us because we don't control, the laws in different countries, but, the law in most countries around the world, I believe, is that you post a photo, you own that photo, and people don't have the ability to use that photo without your permission. So, if you find that someone, whether it's on a blog or, somewhere else is using your photo without your permission, you should have the right to be able to send them an email and get in touch with them and tell them that they don't have permission to do that and they should take it down. And in probably almost every country in the world, there are probably exceptions to this, but in most countries that I can think of, if people don't respect your rights for the content that you own, you have legal recourse to go after that. But this is obviously an issue for Facebook because we want people to feel completely comfortable that if they share something with their friends or a community of 100 people, that's not somehow going to be taken and shared with more people. And unfortunately, we don't have complete control of if someone takes a screenshot or something within our app, but you do own those photos and have the right to have them distributed only how you want, whether that's on our service or outside.
Thank you.
Mark, let's go back to the audience.
Yes, hi Mark. I have a question about time management. What is your favorite approach to time management? Because you're traveling a lot, Asia last week, now Europe, then probably back to the States, now you're a father. Congratulations, right?
Thank you.
And last but not least, you're managing Facebook. So,
just that small thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what do you do to stay professionally on track and on time?
Well, you're assuming a lot. You know, I have a great team who keeps me on time, but most of the time. And, you know, especially when I come to Germany, I try to stay on time. This is like the one place in the world where I really feel like I'm messing up if I'm not on time. But, you know, the thing that I really try to focus on is making sure that I'm spending my time on the things that I think are important rather than just reactively. You know, because, you know, if you're running something, you know, or even if you're not, right, there are going to be all these things that come up in day-to-day life that can easily consume all your time, or more than all of your time. And I think it's all of our job to just make sure that we don't let that, right, and that you carve out different periods of time to do what you want to do in the world, right? So whether that's personally spending time with my family, or professionally in our mission for Facebook, spending time on the things that I feel like push this mission to connect everyone in the world forward. You know, I think about some of the long-term stuff that we're doing, whether it's this initiative to try to connect everyone in the world, or pushing forward AI research, or you know, things like that. You know, I could spend all of my time just working on Facebook's current products, and you know, and they still wouldn't be perfect, right? Because there's just so much. We're serving so many different people that there's just so much that we need to do to get that right. But at some point, I feel like, you know, you have a responsibility if you believe that you want to help connect every person in the world, that, you know, you have to carve out some of your time to focus on the 4 billion people who do not currently have access to the internet. And that's going to mean doing some different things and carving out time in your normal day-to-day life to think about that and how you can solve those problems, and traveling to different countries to meet people and understand what their needs are, so that way we can better build services for them. So at the end of the day, it's kind of just living intentionally. But I think it really starts with, you know, waking up and every day and looking at how you're spending your time and deciding, you know, how much of my day is reactive and dealing with stuff that came up versus, is this really what I want to be pushing forward in the world? And you know, if you wake up too many days in a row and decide that, you know, it's not what you think is the right thing to be pushing forward, then you change something.
Sorry for the hands, but I have another question which was on the thread, in the media, at dinners I attended. Will we ever do a dislike button?
Well, this week we rolled out reactions. So I think that's probably about as close as we're going to get for a long time. But you know, the reason why we did reactions was we got very consistent feedback for years. You know, people in our community were asking for a dislike button. And for a while we thought, hey, you know, that's mean, right? Why would you want to say that you don't like someone's post? And after talking to people, after years and years of this, I realized that people didn't want to vote down other people's posts. What they wanted to do was express empathy for things that were not happy, right? Because not every moment in the world is a happy moment, right? There are going to be, you know, a lot of times where, you know, something bad happens. You know, someone in your family gets sick, right? Or there's something controversial, like the refugee crisis that people want to talk about because it's meaningful and it's important. But, you know, the right reaction to that stuff isn't always to like it, right? It might not make you feel comfortable liking a post about suffering in different parts of the world. And, but we think that there needs to be a place for that in our community. And we don't want the fact that, you know, people don't get any feedback because, you know, people don't hit the like button on that content to make the people who would otherwise talk about that feel like this isn't a place to talk about that. You know, it's the dialogue. You know, you post something, you get feedback, you get comments, you get discussion. It's the social feedback that helps us, you know, figure out what we should be engaging in. And, you know, we hope that by creating reactions and giving people the ability to say that they're angry about something, or that something makes them sad, or that they love something, or think that something's funny, that it will just expand the emotional range of content that people feel comfortable sharing on Facebook. Because Facebook should be a place, and people should have the power to talk about hard things too. And that's what I hope we've done with reactions. We really want to make sure we got this right. The like button is one of the most iconic and important parts of the Facebook product. And it's been here for many, many years at this point. It's a very important part of how we all use the product. So we wanted to make sure we didn't mess this up before rolling it out widely, which is why we had such a long test. But in our initial tests and in a bunch of different places around the world, we found that it does increase the amount that people feel comfortable talking about these different kinds of topics, which was exactly the goal.
Okay, let's take another question from the audience here. Who has another question for Mark?
Hi. What are your views on?
You can get up.
Okay, thanks. What are your views on influencer marketing, and how do you plan to support this moving forward?
Marketing?
Influencer campaigns and sponsored campaigns with public figures.
Well, let me talk about what we're doing with marketing overall, and then I'll kind of get to that. So, our goal is to make it so that the content that you see on Facebook is great stuff that you're interested in, right? So, we think advertising can be good when it's done well, and it can be very bad when it's done poorly. And we think it's our job to make it so that people can get the most relevant experience there possible. And we definitely think it's possible to get there. There are brands that we all love who produce content that is inspiring for us, and public figures who stand for things that we think are inspiring, who are a part of this, and I think that's what you're asking about. There's small businesses that we all love, right, that are right around where we live, and everyone wants small businesses to be able to thrive. And one of the great things I think about the internet is that now small businesses have the opportunity to do exactly the same kind of marketing that previously in other generations was only available to bigger companies, right? So the internet is really an opportunity to level the playing field and make it so that smaller companies and really local businesses and small shops have all these same tools to be able to reach and engage with their customers. It's one of the things that I'm most proud of in terms of Facebook's economic contribution to the world, that there are more than 40 million small businesses on Facebook who use it as one of their key ways to engage with people around them and grow what they're doing. So, I think public figures and influencers are going to be an important part of all of that. And we need to do a good job of this, or else advertising will not contribute to the experience in the way that it should. This is something that I monitor this very closely myself, because I want to make sure that every story that you see in newsfeed is good, including the advertising. And one of the things that I'm just really obsessed with is this idea that over time we should be able to get the quality of the advertising content to be able to get closer and closer to the level of the social content that you see. And it's not going to be the same, right? I mean, the advertising content isn't going to have your friends in it, but some of these folks have different advantages, right? I mean, a big brand that is going to produce aspirational content, might put a lot of money into producing something great that you see once, and we hope that content can get better. And what we're seeing is that in a lot of countries now, the gap really is closing, and in some countries there's almost no gap that people report in using our product between the quality of the social content that they see and the marketing. In a bunch of countries like the US and Germany, there's still a bigger gap than we would like to see, so we need to keep on working on this. But this is a big part of our mission. We have to do well. We need to contribute in the communities where we operate, not just to helping people stay in touch with the people who they love and care about, but helping to grow the economy and helping to create jobs and do all these other things that you would expect a big company to really contribute in communities, and we take that very seriously.
We do have another question from the room, please.
Hello, Mark.
Hey.
Following that question, I wanted to ask you, how do you see Facebook influencing the world positively in the next few years?
So, the mission that we have of helping to give people the power to share everything they want and help people stay close to the people they love and care about and connect with content, whether it's ideas or opportunities or businesses and economic opportunities. That I think is the core mission, and I do believe is the biggest thing that we were doing that is positive in the world. But on top of that, I think that there are some kinds of problems in the world that you can only really solve if you have a big community and coordinate. And I think that we have a responsibility as the company that's helping to build this community to do the things that we can to bring the community together so that the community can fulfill its potential of doing some of these good things that wouldn't be possible otherwise. So the things that come to mind are, there's this terrible earthquake in Nepal, and the community came together and raised more than $15 million. It was the biggest collective kind of crowdsourced effort in the world. It's in the Guinness Book of Records now. We see, whenever there are disasters in the world, whether that's, earthquakes or hurricanes or the recent terrorist attack in Paris. There's this tool Safety Check that we've built that gives people the ability to say that they're safe, right? And that if they know that someone who they care about is safe, and then we'll use the community and the tools that Facebook has built up to notify that person's friends and family, right? Because when you hear that there's a terrorist attack or a disaster in some city, all you want to know is that the people that you love and care about are safe, right? And that's a thing that kind of uniquely Facebook can build, right? Because we know, because you've shared who your friends are, and you've shared whether you're safe or not, and you've shared what city you're in. So we can kind of put all that together and help people connect in those times. Around the world, we're starting to roll out tools around finding lost and missing children, right? We have this program that we started in the US. It's called Amber Alerts, but we've rolled it out in Canada, and we're rolling out in more countries as well. That the idea is that when there's a lost or abducted child, the police will post a photo of them, and oftentimes people, if they see the person, will then call the police. And what we found is that we can show that to people who live in that area, because on Facebook a lot of people share where they live. And there's already been at least one example of a child who their photo was posted in this Amber Alert, and someone recognized the kid, and they were just like, hey, I saw this kid in my community recently, and they went to the police, and then the child got saved from being abducted and returned to their family. So you could just go on and on and on about, there are all these different examples of things that really would not be possible without the community that you have all built, and we built the tools to help come together on Facebook. And as a company, I just think we feel this tremendous responsibility that, if these are things that only we can do together, then we better make sure we do them. Right, and so we have a whole team at Facebook that's focused on these social good initiatives and has a long roadmap of things. We just recently rolled out, fundraising for different causes, fundraising for different organizations that were working on the refugee crisis, all these different areas. And this doesn't even include Internet.org, which is actually probably the biggest single thing that we're doing, which is trying to bring all the opportunities of the internet to the next 4 billion people. So I could probably spend the whole town hall talking about this stuff. I mean, I care a lot about this, but I feel like we have a tremendous responsibility to do more and more here.
Mark, maybe closely connected to that, what often comes up in the media, question about philanthropy, right? So you gave away 99% of your wealth.
Oh, we're going to.
You're going to, not yet, but making an investment in science, right? What are the areas you most care about personally?
So when Priscilla was pregnant with Max and we were thinking about the world that we wanted her to grow up in, we kind of thought about the world is getting better in a lot of ways, right? But there are these big step change things that we can do in the world if we work together and really just invest in them, right? A lot of, rightfully, a lot of the money that we spend as a society and the energy goes towards today's problems. But, we all want the next generation of people to live a much better life than we've had the ability to. And, so you can ask these big questions like, can students learn 100 times more than they learn today? I think the answer to that is yes, and I'll get to why in a second. Can we, by the end of this century, get to a point where we can cure or treat, all of the different diseases that come up in the world? I think the answer to that is yes. Can we build inclusive communities that are welcoming around the world? Can we effectively eliminate poverty and make sure that everyone has access to health care and help spread more equal rights? These I think are some of the big challenges that we have for the next generation. And I think we have a responsibility to invest in those. And some of these things I actually think no one will be able to do them by themselves. But go back to the education question for a second. There's this new trend towards more personalized learning. All right, so now that we have the internet and different tools to learn, some kids learn better by watching videos, some learn better by reading, some learn better by practice problems, some learn better by collaborating with other people or working independently. Having the ability to learn using the method that matters the most to you is going to help every child get ahead, right? Being able to focus more time on the things that are challenging and fun for you will help you get ahead, right? So some concepts you might just get immediately and others might be hard, but in today's education system, you kind of need to spend the same amount of time on everything. So making it so that the education can be personalized for each person is going to be a big difference. And there are already some early studies put out by the Gates Foundation that show that even for the first set of personalized learning schools that are out there, there's probably dozens today, but not hundreds or thousands. The outcomes can be as much as 50% better a year, right? Which means that if you do 50% better 12 years in a row, then that's actually 100 times better in terms of compounding. So, if we can help do our part to make sure that these kind of new tools for teachers to do an even better job of what they love and care about every day and come into work to do, and empower students to learn what they care about, then I don't see why we wouldn't be able to get to a world by the time that our children grow up where people can learn and experience 100 times more things. Or take health. Medicine has only really been like a real science, right, for maybe about 100 years. Right? People have worked on cures and things before then, but the real kind of scientific method applied towards medicine has not been a thing for that long. And think about all the progress we've made. There are diseases that don't exist anymore, that previously killed tons of people. A lot of diseases that killed a lot of people still are around, but now we can just manage a lot better. And of all the things that we die from, there are really only a handful of major categories of things that I think that we can make a huge amount of progress on. And it's not that we'll be able to cure everything up front so that no one gets sick, but I actually think that if we invest a huge amount of resources in this as a society, then we can get to a point where our children and their children will live in a world where most or all of the diseases either have been cured or are treatable. Or there are areas like building inclusive communities. This is something in the US I've been very active in immigration reform. And, coming here in Germany, I just have to say that German leadership in the refugee crisis, I think has been inspiring and is a model for the world. And, you know, I look around the world. I travel around to lots of places, and you know, there are a lot of countries where, you know, people are turning inwards, right? Because there are challenges everywhere, and there are real challenges. But you know, it takes courage and humanity to realize that, you know, there are people out there who need a home, and building these kind of inclusive communities is ultimately going to be the best thing for the world. And you know, I hope that more countries follow Germany's lead on this. I hope the U.S. follows Germany's lead on this. You know, if we in our philanthropic work can play even a small role in trying to help, you know, encourage folks around the world to achieve these things, which I really do think are possible, you know, maybe not within our lifetimes, but hopefully within our children's, then, I mean, think about how awesome that's going to be.
All right. Mark, last question on VR. Please, can you stand up? Here you go.
Hi, Mark. Facebook is doing a lot to push virtual reality nowadays, and is quite successful in doing that. And I'm a games developer interested in VR, so that's good news for me. And clearly Facebook is interested in social VR. But until now, all we have seen were just 3D chat rooms with 3D avatars and not more. What future possibilities do you see for social VR? And do you also think about local social VR, so multiple people in one room collaborating in virtual reality?
Yeah, so I'm excited about all this stuff. You know, the reason why we're interested in VR is it gets back to Facebook's mission, right? I mean, we're here to help give everyone the power to share everything that they care about, and to be able to do that in as much depth and richness as possible. And if you go back 10 or 15 years on the internet, most of what we shared and consumed online was text, right? You could read, but there wasn't a whole lot of video or photos. And then we all got smartphones, and we all had cameras, and we got the power to share photos, and that started to become the primary way that we all shared online. And now, as the mobile networks are getting better, so you can watch videos and upload videos without having to wait minutes, you know, I think we're about to enter this era where videos are actually going to be the primary thing that we're sharing and consuming, because it'll start to be a really good experience to do that. And, you know, there's a thing here, which is, you know, we all want to share what's important to us. Everyone wants to be understood, right? And wants to share their ideas and wants to be able to relate to the people around them. And you want to do that in the most vivid and human way possible. So, you know, so text is good. Photos help you capture even more. Videos help you capture even more. But, you know, that's not the end of the line. And, you know, there's always better ways to do things. And what I think we're eventually going to get pretty soon, hopefully, is the ability to capture whole scenes right around us. So not just, you know, one still photo or a moving window or a video, but actually be able to capture the whole scene of what's going on around you. And whether that's capturing it and then sending it out so that people can feel like they're there. You know, I mean, right this week or a couple of weeks ago, I think NASA did that, where they posted this 360 video from the Mars rover on the surface of Mars, and you can put on a headset, you feel like you're there. You're like exploring Mars. It's pretty cool. You know, you can feel like you're there, or you could be streaming things live, right? I mean, in the future, you know, so I mentioned that we're doing a live video of this town hall today, but you know, maybe 5 years from now, or hopefully even sooner, we'll be doing a live, you know, 360. Where this is streamed and people from all over the world can, you know, on their phone or put on glasses and be able to actually feel like they're there, right? Like they're here with this community here, not just watching something that's going on far away in the world. I think that's gonna happen, and I think that's gonna be really powerful. And there are gonna be some awesome shared experiences that we just don't have the ability to get to today, but I don't know. That's what we're here to do, right? And that's why I love and care so deeply about our mission, giving every person in the world the power to share everything that's important to them, and then not only giving people that power, but making sure that every person in the world equally has that power. So, thank you.